All right, great to have you back. If you've just joined us, you are watching This Morning live from the studios of LN 24/7, wherever you are from around the world. We're now on to that segment where we hold critical issues on the front burner into the topic of discussion. And Nigeria, just marked a milestone, another 26 years of uninterrupted democracy since 1999. Welcome back. Great. We are set for that conversation, and we will be talking about 26 years of democracy, unlocking Nigeria's promise for the people. As you also know, our Abuja studio is still very much with us right here. Mono Balagbobo in Abuja, we are back on the front burner.
Indeed, MNK, we are back, and of course, it's been 26 years of Nigeria's democracy. There's a lot to unpack. What has been delivered for Nigerians so far? I mean, from the return of civilian rule to the 2020 #EndSARS movement, Nigeria's journey reflects resilience, but also systematic gaps, poverty, insecurity, just undeveloping stories. We're talking about the situation in Benue State, and there's so much distrust. As protests marked Democracy Day on June 12, 2025, we are asking, can Nigeria's democracy deliver for the masses? That is a very, very significant point, MNK.
It can Nigeria's democracy deliver for the people? I tell you, very good question. We will be interrogating 3 pillars of Nigeria's democratic future, and we shall be looking at stronger institutions, economic diversification, and youth empowerment. On this occasion, joining us from Abuja, the FCT, the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is public affairs analyst Nnamdi Abana, and of course, Peter Aka, a youth activist, to dissect the challenges and solutions. Right. Mono, our analysis are really backed, data-driven analysis we are going to have here. Mono, I bring you back into this conversation in Abuja. Hello, Mono.
Hello, MNK. Good to have you back. Of course, like you said, our analysis is backed by data-driven infographics and, of course, relevant sound bites, and we're asking a lot of questions. So, I mean, it's just a whole lot. We put up a poll on our X page, LN247, if our social media back and roll, so that we can get your verdict on the topic of conversation. So we're delving straight to our first talking point: strengthening democratic institutions for inclusive governance. But before I do that, let me say hi to Peter Aka. Good morning. Thank you so much for being on set with us.
Good morning, sir. It's an absolute pleasure being here once again.
I must say, you're a shining star and a light in terms of what youth should be doing in terms of engaging politics of the day, and I think you're doing just a fantastic job with that. So first, the state of our democratic institutions, that is what we are looking at. Our first talking point: the 2022 Electoral Act advanced transparency with beavers, but vote buying, judicial overreach undermine trust with over 40% of Nigerians in poverty. Weak governance perpetuates inequality. These are just some of the key issues that we would love to look at. You also look at institutions like INEC and the judiciary. They must deliver accountability to serve the masses. Back to you, MNK.
Indeed, they must deliver accountability, I tell you. And at this platform, Nigeria 2025 experts called for the curbing of executive dominance to strengthen democracy. And we look up to the data. We have some infographics for you there. Nigeria's democratic trust deficit and public trust in institutions. And we have INEC at 35%. INEC at 35%. Now, judiciary comes in next at 28%, and the National Assembly, 22%. And this is according to research done by Afrobarometer in 2024, Mano.
All right, so let's get to our first question. Nnamdi Abana is live with us from Abuja. Good morning. Thank you so much for being with us, Nnamdi. With us, well, Peter. Okay, good morning, Nnamdi. Good to have you today on the show. So let's start. For what specific reforms can shield INEC and the judiciary from interference, ensuring elections reflect the people's will? This is something that Nigerians want. And the National Assembly, I'm live with Peter here in Abuja. Of course, you've been following his activities and his advocacy for electoral reform and all of that. There is no passion, so to speak, from these lawmakers to ensure that something is done, and this is what the people want. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I don't see light at the end of the tunnel because most members of the National Assembly, they are bound to return. Of course, they want to perpetuate themselves at the National Assembly. So there won't be that sincerity of purpose in terms of engendering an electoral reform. Last dispensation, we so much talked about the BVAS and the electronic voting system. It was as though once it is used, all forms of rigging and electoral malpractices will be eliminated. We saw what happened during the election. At some point, the electronic voting system was disabled or switched off. We saw ballot box snatching and the negative things that characterize, the Nigerian election. We saw them come back to play. So once there is no political will to see to it that we have a fair and transparent election, the status quo will continue to prevail. And again, we are in a country where some of the leaders that we have been accused of rigging themselves into public office. So in a situation where we have leaders that have rigged themselves into office, how do you think that they allow for us to have electoral reforms? So it's an uphill task. It's an uphill task, and for us to be able to achieve that, it will take decades. It will take decades. INEC has been compromised. It has been said that he who pays the price is the tune. INEC is, directly under the presidency, and they dance according to the tune of the presidency. Is it the judiciary? We can see what is happening with the judiciary and most institutions that we have in the country presently, including the National Assembly. This time around, Nigerians they lack the requisite adjective that they're going to use to qualify the current National Assembly that we have. During the era, we refer to them as rubber stamp. Around, we have a terrible situation in our hands, such that the Senate, including the leadership of the Senate, they are no longer hiding it. They come out in the open to sing the praises of the presidency, and everything that the president sends to the nation, they get assay without questioning, which defeats of checks and balances, within the system. Separation of powers and checks and balances. We are in a precarious situation in this country.
We'll come back to you about MNK. We have Peter Aka live with us. Please go ahead with your questions.
Absolutely. Peter, so good to see you in our studio in Abuja. I just wanted to say that also we would have a legal practitioner, join us in the course of this conversation, also from the FCT Abuja. He is Barrister Chidi Onwekwipe. He will be joining us. But Peter, so good to see you. So good to see you. I want to address democratic institutions like transparent budgeting. I mean, as we are looking at this 26 years of uninterrupted democracy and matters arising, towards making it stronger to deliver to the people. Now, how can stronger democratic institutions like transparent budgeting improve economic opportunities for the Nigerian youth?
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure being with you today too. Look, the strength of every democracy is in the strength of its institutions. That is what democracy should be about, that we have a system of government where power comes from the people and it is reflected in the strength of the institutions to protect and provide for the persons against strong men in the society. But unfortunately, in the Nigerian situation, we have a situation where the entire arms of government are almost completely working as subordinates to the executive arm of government, and therefore it is the will of strong men that is being perpetuated in the system or in the polity against the will of the people, not regardless of how the citizenry feels. The welfare of the people that should be the primary responsibility of government has taken a back seat, and the personal interest and wishes of the people or the political class to hold on to power is what is the bane of the day. We saw it in the 2025 Appropriation Act, just as you have rightly asked, where we can see that even from ministries like the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is building civic centers in states, is laying interlock tiles in Owode Market somewhere in Kwara State, where we are building street lights for more than 200 and something million per head. So generally, you would see that all of these institutional irregularities occur because there are no consequences. There are no accountabilities. The principles of checks and balances that should exist in a democracy are completely taken away. The legislative arm of government has almost become an APC town hall. Anytime the president goes there to submit his budget, he is greeted with the APC mantra, on their mandate they shall fall. So the persons who are supposed to deliberately ensure that every clause in a budget is intended at enhancing and improving the quality of life of the people are rather seated to do the biddings of the political class in the executive with their cronies in the legislative arm of government. So the entire budget is almost a document of absolute corruption. So how then can you foster, this kind of integration? So the Nigerian people, it is up to us to rise to the occasion and demand this accountability and ensure that the budget becomes a reflection of the will and hopes of the people.
Indeed, Peter. Indeed. I also see you donning that T-shirt with that bold inscription, electoral reforms, fix INEC now. Abana spoke, extensively about INEC. I just want to ask you, before we delve into talking point 2, which will be on economic diversification. Why are you on that T-shirt? Pardon me to ask, but it looks like you are making a bold statement putting it on.
Very bold and important statement. In fact, any conversation in Nigeria today that is not talking about electoral reform and fixing the electoral umpire is almost a waste of time. And I will tell you why. While Nigerians are busy talking and complaining about inflation, insecurity, a bad economy, poor infrastructure, unemployment, out of school children, and, guess what? The persons who are responsible for this situation, who have put more than 200 million lives in precarious situation where we are experiencing extreme and multi-dimensional poverty, those persons are already prepared for 2027. This government actually is one of the only government who came in 2023, and by the end of 2023 began campaign for 2027. So I ask the question, if we can see the coming together of those who are destroying the country, who are causing all of the reckless and irresponsible leadership in the country, if you see them coming together to plan for 2027, Nigerians, what is your plan? Because if you complain and do nothing, by 2027, if they are back, you have another 4 years of lamentations. If you do nothing, you end up in 2031. So it will be a vicious cycle of complaints and lamentations with no results. So we must fix INEC and elections to hold politicians accountable.
I mean, you just raised something that is very vital, Peter, talking about the politicians having their own plan.
Yes.
And it seems as if Nigerians don't even have a plan. And I'm very excited about what you're doing, and I hope Nigerians will pay attention beyond just the distraction of social media and get involved, because if, like you said, they already have a plan.
Yes.
The president is already endorsed. The opposition political parties are just in shambles. So what are the people doing? And that is very important. So let's move to our talking point 2. We're looking at economic diversification to reduce inequality and to also boost our shared prosperity. MNK, back to you.
So much. Thank you so much, Mono. I was listening to the youth activist there, Peter Aka, reel out all of those about reforming INEC. But moving on, in this conversation, Nigeria's economy, leans heavily on oil, marking up 88% of 2024 exports. Even as Brent crude fluctuates at $75 per barrel in June 2025, production bottlenecks squandered gains during the 2022 oil price surge. That's just a background to our next conversation. Non-oil sector like agriculture and tech, fintech attracted, $1.2 billion in 2024 and hold potential, but face underinvestment and security. Mona, I'm sure you'll agree with me.
Oh, yes, most definitely. I think it is a very significant point that you have raised there, and we need to do this. You also look at the Iran-Israel war. It's escalating. The price of Brent crude and all of that has also gone up. So what are we doing? The potential is there. Yesterday, Emenike, I was watching, Peter Aka, you're a content creator, and, someone was doing a breakdown of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that Nigerian content creators are making online. So that sector is not even tapped. And something needs to be done. So the World Bank pegs Nigeria's fourth quarter 2024 GDP growth at 3.8%. But Finance Minister Wale Edu says 77% rather is needed to dent poverty. The AFCFTA offers a diversification lifeline. So we have a picture of what that looks like. We'll look at the graphic that we have looking at Nigeria's oil dependency challenge. So there you can see oil 88%, agriculture 6%, tech services 4%. So there you have it. So there is a whole lot of opportunity here, and I think it's something that we have to quickly look at. So Emenike, you've got a question for Abana as he weighs in on what can be done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Nande, I bring you into this conversation next, and I asked, how can regional development commissions enabled by democratic reforms bolster non-oil sector?
Do we really have regional commissions? Those are mere political establishments that to make any meaningful impact in the various regions, because they collect money from the federal government for execution. Of course, we all know that the so-called projects are never executed because the money ends up in private pockets. But I want to say this: I don't think that as a country we should be mentioning oil. I've spoken about the diversification of the Nigerian economy for so long that, I'm still surprised that at this stage of our national life, we are still heavily dependent on. Nigeria is a blessed country. Nigeria is a blessed country. We have agriculture to tap into. During the president's speech at the National Assembly, he made a funny comment. He said he's going to make agriculture very sexy. I don't know what he meant by that, but for decades and for decades we've had successive governments coming out to make promises on how they're going to improve agriculture. But up till today, nothing is truly happening. And again, we have to get the fundamentals right for agricultural life in our country. Look at what is happening in Benue State. Over 200 people were killed, and the state is an agrarian state, the food basket of the nation. The supplies from Benue State have been cut short, and in lots of other states too have been affected by this, by security. Besides insecurity, we don't have mechanized mechanized agriculture. It's sad that in most farms today, people still move around with their hoe and their, cutlasses, which is quite unfortunate. At this point, um, tractors and other devices for agriculture shouldn't be something to shout about. We should be talking about making agriculture being the mainstay of the Nigeria. Let's not forget that Malaysia, some time ago, came to Nigeria to collect some palm fruits. And today, the Malaysian economy is being sustained by palm, by agricultural, produce. So why can't we do the same? Then you look at the area of ICT. The area of ICT, many Nigerians are doing well in that regard. But rather than encourage them, once you are seen with a laptop by law enforcement agents, you are branded a Yahoo boy. I think Peter Obi once spoke against the attitude of the law enforcement agents. I mean, how can you have a thriving IT sector where youths cannot comfortably make use of their mobile devices, their laptops, and so on and so forth? Look at the entertainment industry. I think during Jonathan's time, the entertainment industry some billions for Nigeria. But all that has gone down the drain because zero premium has been placed on IT entertainment. You know, so we have a lot of challenges in our country. Then you look at the issue of solar energy. Today, the hydroelectricity is failing or has failed Nigerians. Nigerians pay so much for hydroelectricity. Many people are going solar. For crying out loud, why should we be importing those components from China? Most of the components are imported, the panel and everything. What happened to the Ajoku company? Every government promises to revive the Ajokuta Steel Company, but nothing happens. We end up importing different materials, wire, steel, and so on. Nothing is produced locally in this regard, which is quite unfortunate. Today we have expatriates coming into the country, milking the nation dry, and sending in the revenue into their country.
Indeed,
So the
Abana.
same, if I start.
Yes,
Okay.
I follow you. I follow you, and it's all addressing the question we are discussing today: how to unlock, the promise, Nigeria's promise to the people, and look at all the areas you are unpacking for the authorities' attention. And I just pray that they would listen. And I don't know, sometimes we believe they are listening, and we also believe that perhaps they are taking note of all of this, especially coming from Nnamdi and Peter. But right now we are joined by a legal practitioner who is also based in the FCT, Abuja, Barrister Chidi Onwekwipe. Nice to have you join this conversation from Abuja. Barrister Chidi, welcome. Hello, Barrister, can you hear us? Welcome to this conversation. Yes, we are looking at 26 years of democracy, unlocking Nigeria's promise, for the people. When you hear this kind of topic, what hits you? What crosses your mind after 26 years of uninterrupted democratic rule in Nigeria? Should we still be talking about unlocking the promise? But Sachidi, can you hear us from the studio here? Wow. Okay. Please activate your audio on your device. And when you do that, just say hello. We'll hear you here in the studio. All right. Mono, back to you.
On set. I mean, quite interesting points you raised, Nnamdi Abana, about, unlocking the potential of diversifying the economy. But let's also look at the issue of job. I mean, Peter, you're a youth like I am. How bothered are you about job opportunities for Nigerian youths? You look at how can policies leveraging the AFCFTA create jobs in agriculture, tech, especially for Nigerians. We're seeing those sectors thriving, but what do you think the government can do for the sake of the youths? And what's been your experience?
Look, Nigeria is in serious trouble. Before we talk about unlocking, diversifying the economy and creating jobs in other aspects of the economy, let us ask ourselves the question. We have been oil dependent, from your statistics, about 88%. What happened to the revenue that was accrued from oil? How did we use that or deploy it in advance?
That's a very interesting question.
We have 3 refineries in Nigeria where we budget billions to maintain, but are unable to do anything. The entire country now depends on one private modular refinery somewhere in Lagos. So the problem with Nigeria is an outright lack of accountability. If we want to diversify the economy to agriculture without accountability, it is just cascading corruption to another level. But because the way Nigeria is configured today is configured not to do well, because there is no accountability or consequences. We are not invested in critical sectors of production. Why will agriculture not move forward? We have not modernized anything. And then now, even when you say you want to diversify, you must have security for you people. Just recently, yesterday, 200 persons have been killed in Benue. A flood has ravaged Niger, one of the states with the largest land mass that can feed the entire country. So there are a lot of bottlenecks. These things cannot work until we fix governance. If we want to create, profit and empower people from tech, a lot of Nigerians who are into tech did that from personal development. What has the government contributed in ensuring that the technological sector supports youth?
And some of them have left the country.
Some of them have left,
yeah,
or are even here and working remotely for foreign companies. Because if you look at the statistics of more than 20 million out of school children, coupled with 30-something% on youth unemployment, even those who are employed are actually underemployed, because as Nigerians, we are one medical bill away from sinking into poverty. So the entire statistics are so dire that what should support the decent human living of a person, they are not there. The indices for human development, look at Kenya, earning billions from flour production, flour yearly. Taraba State, Mambila, if you go there, it has the capacity of changing the landscape in terms of diversification. But there is no political will to invest in this because of corruption.
Now, let's talk about this administration. The administration boasts and says that we are on track. Given the menace that Nigerians witnessed during the Buhari-led administration, and now Tinubu said he's resetting renewed hope agenda, do you think we are on the right track as he has said, economically speaking?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. In fact, Tinubu said he was going to continue from where Buhari stopped. So the question is, if Buhari was such a calamity, where do you begin from that disaster? And then 2 years into the renewed hope agenda, what exactly is the level of hope that Nigerians have gotten? With 200 persons killed in a day, slaughtered in a state. The National Security Advisor stating that weapons that are used to kill people in Plateau are weapons that are stolen from government armory. Criminals are having access to government weapons, killing citizens, and the government cannot protect them.
Not just the citizens now, even security personnel
Boko Haram has been surged. Military bases have been overrun again. Back to 10 years ago, the president for 2 years could not commission one project that was begun. I mean, the coastal highway 700 we commissioned 30 kilometers that is still even contested whether it is actually 30 kilometers. Why is the government so, skeptical or afraid that national monuments are being renamed by a sitting government by themselves? We renovate an ICC that was built for less than 30 million with 39 billion. And the FCT minister boasts that those who criticize it do not have taste. So if you want to look at the entire Bola Tinubu renewed hope agenda, how does renewed hope translate into such hopelessness and despondency? So it looks the entire nation in the face when a government comes with this kind of agenda, fails to perform, but is not interested in the politics of coming back, because you only need power for the sake of power and not for the betterment of lives of the citizens.
All right, Peter, we'll come back to you. But Emenike, our final focus, Nigeria's youth and their demands for a better future. We're talking about addressing youth demands through education, jobs, and security. Some of the points that he has even raised. You look at Nigeria's youth, over 60% of the population grapple with 33% unemployment, insecurity. Let's not even go with that, because we're still trying to unpack what is going on in Benue State as we speak. The hashtag protest, the hardship protest, the Democracy Day protest, the demands of Nigerian youths are quite clear, and these are something that we really need to look at. You also look at education funding at 70% of GDP in 2024, falling short of UNESCO's 15% benchmark, stifling skills growth. Emenike, take it away.
I tell you something, Mono. Also in April 2025, Dr. Yemi Kale of Afrexim's Bank also warned that youth unemployment threatens national security and called for urgent reforms. I tell you. Mono, you have the data.
I mean, well, I think because of time, let me just engage Abana quickly, Emenike. So, Mr. Namdi, what democratic reforms can enhance security and policing to meet youth expectations? Because, some of it, we always say the president, but he's working with the legislators. There are some things the president cannot really do without the backing of the National Assembly. So how do you weigh in on this?
For me, I think that the youths shouldn't depend on the government. There is a former US president said, think of what your country will do for you, but what you will do for your country. Waiting for the government to do something for you, I think is a pipe dream. So I think every Nigerian youth should leverage the private sector. They should come up with ideas that they can give some commercial value, rather than depend on government, because the government has failed and the government will continue to fail, and they are not even showing any signs of change or repentance. Like I mentioned earlier on, they are already preparing for the next election. They are not interested in governance. They are interested in perpetuating themselves as you know, some of their children are already at the National Assembly. So they don't have the interest of the masses at heart. It is the responsibility of every Nigerian youth to put on his thinking cap and come up with ideas that will help him to thrive in a failing nation. The government is useless. There are private sector doing grants, have your business idea, learn how to apply for, such grants, and then start up something that you can grow rather than depend on government. That is just that for the youth because it has become a vicious cycle. We've been protesting, we've been criticizing, we've been trying to get the attention of the government, even the attention of the international community, but nothing is happening. And that is the law of madness when you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. So the time has come for the Nigerian youth to act differently by taking their destinies into their hands. I remember some young people that went to an old man. They went to an old man with an ant. They said, "We are going to ask the old man if the ant is dead or alive." They had the intention of killing the ant if the man says he's alive, and they had the intention of releasing it if the man says it. So when they got to the old man and posed the question to the old man, the man told the young men that the lives of the ants are in your hands. So the lives of Nigerians are in the Nigerians. Nigerian youth should put on the thinking cap, start up something, your idea is your capital. Don't wait for when the money will come. The idea can bring money into your hands, into your pocket. So that is my advice to the Nigerian youth.
All right. Thank you so much, Nnamdi Abana, pushing the responsibility away from government now and to the hands of the people. Emenike, I'm sure you've heard what Nnamdi has said. Peter is still live with us in the studio.
Absolutely, absolutely. Peter, I want to look at, now that we're talking about the youth, and addressing their demands, let's look at inclusiveness involving the youth this time around and the kind of policies, economic policies that can create jobs for the youth, especially in tech and agriculture. What kind of policies do you expect, that from the government in order to address this? I mean, creating jobs, for the youth in these areas.
Thank you very much. The most important policy that a government can make and that the people must insist on is a policy of accountability, of holding public office holders accountable. Because if you decide not to, my co-guest just said that you should think of what you can do for your country and not what your country can do for you. Well, if we look at America where that statement was made, we can see what the country does for them. Because the government and the institutions must create an enabling environment for you to be able to thrive. People who were trying to contribute their own quota through farming and living peacefully in their communities are being killed by herdsmen or by bandits. So how do you contribute? Every economy and in every society, policy must be set by policymakers and people in government. And that is why Nigeria is struggling today. If you say that we as young people should also begin to think of making businesses, according to the Nigerian Economic and Research Group, within the 2 years of the Tinubu administration, more than 7.2 million businesses have folded up. International conglomerates who were in Nigeria, some of them have folded up and returned back to their countries. Do you know what stable power, how much it can help to support SMEs and persons who are trying to start up businesses? What exactly is the incentive or availability of credit to young persons who want to go into business and loan facilities? So in all of this, we are stuck between the rock and the hard place. A government or a set of politicians who are not interested in governance but are there for self-gratification and financial aggrandizement, who only talk about the way to capture power, the way to capture the state and subjugate the people. So the more people become uninterested, the better for them. That is why Nigerians must come together and insist on a system of electing their governance, holding them accountable if they fail to perform. Once you secure that institutional reform, you can begin to talk about policies. How do we strengthen law enforcement, judiciary, the economy, and all of that? But if you are talking about that in this current combustible system of government, it is a waste of time, because when you fail to achieve it, they find their way back and then you continue to lament. So we must fix governance as a matter of urgency. That is the best policy that we can give ourselves as a people.
It fix governance urgently. All right. Thank you, Peter. Gentlemen, what we also do here on each conversation is also go to the public, and conduct some, opinion polls. And we did just that for this conversation. And there you have it on your screen. And the simple question we ask, will Nigeria's democracy deliver prosperity for all in the next decade? Look at the options and look at the responses. Nobody said yes. Even slowly, nobody said yes.
Wow.
But there you have, yes with bold reforms, 33%. I'm not sure, 17%. No, system is broken, 50%. And that's the dominant response we are getting on this question. Mono?
I mean, quite interesting responses, MNK. Wow, okay. Nigerians need to be more optimistic. But let's quickly get your thoughts, Nnamdi and Peter. But first, Nnamdi, what urgent actions must Nigeria take in its 27th democratic year to deliver tangible dividends for the masses? I know Peter has talked about accountability. What is it for you?
Well, for me, I think the recruitment process of politicians has to be looked into, and that is the INEC reforms. Very fundamental. That is the fundamental thing we require at this point in our life. If not, we'll keep electing the wrong people, or they will keep subverting the process by pushing in the wrong thing into the system. So electoral reforms, then INEC reforms. We have to have a system where the president doesn't have the sole power to appoint the INEC chairman. That is very, very important, because, you can't be a president of a political party and appoint someone who will work. So there should be a unity that, engages in such appointments for us to have a smooth electoral system. That is basically just that. Then I still maintain what I've said previously. It has not changed apart from this.
Indeed, Abana. Thank you so much for all the insights you've thrown into this conversation. And that will be about the size time will permit us on this segment of this conversation. Thank you also, Peter Aka, youth activist. You've been very, very insightful, and alongside Nnamdi Abana. Yeah. And Barrister Chidi that had glitches connecting. Thank you. We know there'll be many other times. Mono, we have to take a break right now for the news update right here on This Morning Live. And when we return, we will go into another interesting conversation, and that has to do with the Israel-Iran face-off raging right now. Stay with us. This Morning Live returns in a moment with the news update.